I designed and built this wooden horse racing game based off vintage versions that were traditionally made out of metal. Winding up a flywheel and giving it a tug, which generates random results every time, makes this a perfect game to gamble on. All of the components for this project were built using a desktop CNC router, so if you have one of these awesome machines yourself and want to build one, check out the link in the video description for the build files. Anyway, welcome back to Aquavita Woodworks. At the time I'm filming this, I haven't yet built the version of this game that you hopefully just saw in the intro, but I did build this prototype. I figured before we get started on the real version, this would be a good time to show you not only how this game works, but also some of the improvements I plan on making on the finalized version. So let me change the camera angle and I'll show you a little bit about this. So the game works by winding a string into the flywheel mechanism, spinning it forward, and then pulling it back after setting the horses at the start of the race. If we play that again and take a view from this angle, you can see that if I remove this cover and pull the string, these balls are going to bounce off the spinning axle here and hit the horses along their track. Clearly I need the cover to hold everything in place, but you get how it works. The horses are just CNC'd together so that they fit into these little pockets. Eventually I'll add some glue, but because this is the prototype, everything is still a little bit loosey-goosey. Any holes that you see on the components will eventually be screw holes, and I also plan on adding a cover over the back side of the horses on this part of the axle. Maybe I'll add some directions on how to wind this thing, but I haven't yet made that. The axle is held in place by these brackets that have pushed-in bearings. Because of those, this thing will spin nice and freely when you pull it. There's a hole drilled through this so that I can wind the string. And this flywheel here is actually made up of 3 1/4-inch pieces of wood pushed together with 8 ball bearings sandwiched in between them around the perimeter to add some extra weight. If I take this flywheel off, which isn't yet glued in place, you can see that this is actually 2 pieces of 1/4-inch wood sandwiched over a 1/4-inch dowel rod or metal rod. And that is the second version of this that I tried. Originally, I tried to screw some holes into each side of a solid piece of wood and try to align it that way, but it was just too wonky and kind of jiggled and wouldn't spin correctly. So that was one of the fixes I made. On the bottom of this component, you'll see that there are the base components, which hold this up at an angle and are put together with mortise and tenon joints that are all cut on the CNC. This fits together right here, and then these pieces fit into pockets on the bottom of the base. So that's a good way to do this, because once this is all glued during the final assembly process, it's never going to fall apart. Let's set this up one more time and run it through its paces before we get started on the final version. With those issues addressed and everything redesigned within SketchUp, I laid out all of my components based on their thicknesses and organized them into 6 different components to be carved on the CNC. I decided to use walnut and maple for the final version just because it looks a lot nicer and it's a harder wood, and once everything is cut down to size, this is all the wood that I need to make this project. The component on the bottom here, which is actually component number 1, is the thickest piece, which will make up the main base. And this is actually a double-sided carve, so in total, I'll need to use the machine 7 times to carve all of these parts. And for all of you out there that don't consider what I do to be real woodworking, I would like to point out that I had to glue 2 pieces of wood together to reach this thickness, and then use my jointer and planer to bring them down to the final dimensions. So, yeah, take that. Before carving any of the actual components out, I'm going to change things up from what I did on the prototype, and instead of painting, I'm going to use epoxy resin to add some flair to this project. The images I'm carving here were made within Canva. I do pay for the premium subscription, but you really didn't need to for this, I don't think. Then I just exported those as SVG files and assigned my toolpaths. In this case, an advanced V-carve with a 16th inch downcut bit and a 60-degree V-bit. For the horses, I want the colors to be seen from both sides of the playing surface, and in order to accomplish that, I'm going to use a 1/16 inch V-bit to carve almost all the way through my stock. That way, once the epoxy is cured, I can come in from the other side and reveal the epoxy. I promise that will make a little bit more sense later on. I did carve 2 other components, one being that cover I mentioned earlier, and then also I added my logo to one of the base pieces. I do want to note though that before I start pouring epoxy, I did use spray lacquer to try to stop any bleeding later on. Now let's pour some epoxy. I'm using Total Boat tabletop epoxy here and 5 different color pigments for the 4 horses and then black for the text. It's a good idea to overfill the epoxy here to make sure you get all the nooks and crannies, but because we are pouring multiple colors next to one another, make sure that your surface is perfectly level and that you don't overfill too much where the colors flow and mix together. The horses are the deepest component I have to fill here, but luckily they're still less than 1/4 inch deep, which is the recommended limit for this type of epoxy. Off camera, I did use a torch to pop the bubbles, but once that's done, we're going to let these sit for a few days to fully cure before we can start working with them. My epoxy's finally cured, and I've already gone ahead to use my planer to shave down and reveal the image on the largest component. I'm pretty happy with how the horse details came out. There is a small issue with the green epoxy on the little coin there, but at this stage in the process, there's really nothing I can do about that other than hope that sanding later on kind of negates a little bit of that, but it is what it is. For the other 3 components, I ended up using my drum sander instead of the planer, mostly because 2 of the pieces are really short and I didn't want any snipe to occur. And for the longer piece with my logo, there was just a lot of fine detail on there and I didn't want to overcut the depth there. So the drum sander I kind of just shaved away slowly at, and I'm pretty happy with the amount of detail in my logo there. With that process finished, I'm now ready to jump into my CNC CAD program. I like to use Carbide Create Pro, but you can use whatever you want. And I can start assigning toolpaths so I can actually start making the parts to make this game. After exporting the project from SketchUp as a DXF file and importing it into my CAD program, some of the vectors, which are highlighted in pink here, get confused because they're overlapping and they don't all connect. Because of that, I need to use the manual line tool to override all of them individually, which is really time consuming, but luckily if you decide to purchase these plans, I did all the work for you and everything will be good to go once you get them. Here's an overview of component number 1, including the image that we carved into it, and all the toolpaths that we need to carve to it, which just consist of pockets and a few drilling toolpaths with a 1/4 inch downcut bit, as well as an 1/8 inch downcut bit. I can't stress enough how simple this project really is once you break it down to the toolpaths and the tools that you need for it. This is actually the most complicated component, and that's only because you need to flip it over and make sure that your X and Y points are perfectly aligned to carve the back. You'll notice that I have a fence, so this is no issue for me. Sticking with pockets and contours, which will be consistent throughout this project, the base pieces are carved using an 1/8 inch downcut bit, and these are held in with tabs. It's the only component that has tabs, so I do need to remove those using a multi-tool and then an oscillating spindle sander. Once those are removed, you can do a dry assembly on the base component just to see how this is going to go together after the finishing process. Now I mentioned earlier that we're only using tabs on that one component, which means that for the rest of our components, we need to stick these down to the CNC using double-sided tape. Because most of the remaining parts are really tiny, adding tabs to them would just be more of a pain than it's worth. The only real downside to double-sided tape is that there is sometimes some tape residue left on your parts, but you need to sand everything anyway, so that really doesn't make a difference in my mind. The next 2 components, which will make up the pieces of the flywheel and axle, as well as the cover for the balls and horses, are basically carved the exact same way using an 1/8 inch downcut bit, pockets and contours, as well as the double-sided tape method. If you haven't noticed by now, I've only used 3 bits for this entire project, including the fine detail in the horses. The only exception to that is I used a 60-degree V-bit for the Epoxy Carves, which are completely optional to begin with, so if you decide to just use paint, well, you wouldn't need that in the first place. Speaking of those tiny horses, which I think are the coolest components within this project, before I show you the big reveal on that carving process, I want to show you my newest update to the CNC machine. And that's my new 65mm spindle from Carbide 3D. If you've watched this channel in the past, you know that for the last few years I've been using a Makita trim router, and that worked alright, but man is this upgrade worth it. This is Carbide 3D's new and improved VFD Spindle Kit that includes ER16 collets, so you can have 3/8 inch shank bits, a removable wiring harness, new electronics, and an enclosure, as well as upgraded, larger spindle bearings for more durability. It does take a bit of effort to update your CNC to fit this spindle. In my case, I had to update my entire Z-axis, but overall the process was actually really fun, and I learned a lot about my machine. Now, I am in no way sponsored by Carbide 3D, I just really like their products. I ended up buying this with my own money along with a gift card that I won from a competition that they hosted, where I built this rotating music box. If you want to see a little bit more about that project and why it won, I'll leave a link right here. But now let's get back to these horses so we can finish up this racing game. This is the backside of the component, and honestly it's my favorite carve in this whole project because this initial pocket carve with a 1/4 inch downcut bit is where we finally get to reveal the epoxy from the other side. I've used this same type of technique in other projects, and one interesting note here is that if you get creative with it, you can actually add lights from behind since the epoxy is transparent. Now obviously I'm not using lights in this project, but it is a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. Anyway, once the horses are revealed, I then switched to a 1/16 inch downcut bit and cut out the profiles, again not using tabs because I have double-sided tape. Be careful when you're removing these from the tape and machine because they are thin and therefore very fragile, and breaking them at this stage would be really annoying. This is what the final result should look like, and if I hold a flashlight behind one of them, you can see what I was talking about before with the lights. I don't know about you, but I think this component is pretty cool. The horses were the last component, so now we have everything finished, and it should look something like this after everything is sanded, which I did off camera. If you're curious what that looks like, here's a quick glimpse. Anyway, before adding varnish to these components, I do need to do some simple assembly, mostly with the axle and flywheel, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so everything is finished with lacquer, assembled, and lubed up with paste wax. And I have to say this thing looks a lot better than I actually expected it to. Before I show you the final working run through of this, I do want to point out two of the really annoying mistakes that I made. The first one being that green epoxy bleeding into the wood. I'm not really sure what I could have done to fix this other than spray a little bit more lacquer in there. I do think that that green epoxy was a different brand pigment than the other colors, so maybe that has something to do with it, but like I said before, it is what it is, and it's not worth restarting the whole project just for that small mistake. The second mistake is a lot more noticeable, but maybe only to me since I'm the one looking back there. You may have noticed it happened when I screwed in this back cover. Basically, I cut the base too short by, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch. So the screw popped out the back, which kind of looks like crap. But again, whatever. This is living in my house. I still think it's cool, and I'm probably going to be the only one to ever notice that. So with those two mistakes pointed out, let's run this through its paces and see how it works. This thing works really good. I'm really happy with how it came out. I think that my kids are really going to enjoy this. And if they don't, well, I really enjoy it. So that's all that matters. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And if you have a CNC machine, don't forget to check out the build files for this. And if you enjoy this channel and want to see me make something different, leave me a comment with any suggestions because I'm always looking for some more ideas. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.